Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and this is your New Eden news for June 26th, YC127. Skyhooks exposed after Upwell suffers cyberattack. Upwell Consortium suffers cyberattack. The Upwell Consortium has reported compromises to the security of Equinox infrastructure following an extensive cyberattack on Tuesday. According to the official statement issued by the consortium, a self-replicating worm virus has uploaded into the remote network that connects to the Equinox suite. Since infiltrating the system, the virus has spread rapidly, infecting 100% of all Skyhooks and Metanox drills. The virus targets the positioning systems of infected structures and shares the location of Metanox drills and Skyhooks that are vulnerable to attack. This virus makes use of evolutionary algorithm that allows it to adapt to changing security protocols. This advanced adaptability of the virus has prevented Upwell from removing it or reversing its effects. Pirate groups have been quick to respond to this new information. New Gerissus and Angels recruitment efforts have been established in the Fulcrum and Zarzak. This has led to speculation that the Deathless Circle was aware of the cyber attack prior to the commencement. The DED, which has been working with Upwell to identify the perpetrators of the attack, would neither confirm nor deny these rumors. Quote, the investigation is ongoing, end quote, according to official statement, and quote, and all possibilities are being considered. We have no doubt that we will be able to identify the source of this attack and bring them to justice, end quote. Upwell has denied rumors that they are also contracting Mortis Legion's forces to extend the investigations beyond the legal limits that constrain the DED. Drifter wormhole occupiers clash over mounting controversies. Research into the mysterious structures inside of the captured Drifter wormhole systems continue as the controversial proposal of the Drifter Summit divide the leadership of the occupying factions. The Caldari and the Amar have led calls for a closed research policy within the occupying factions, while Mimitar Republic and Edencom leadership have been hesitant to reject the summit's recommendations for a more open research policy. The Triglavian Collective has not been invited to join the debate, but is believed to prefer a policy of proving, in which the information can only be shared with those who are found to be worthy. Despite these divisions, each faction has continued to invest greater individual efforts into Drifter research. Scientific delegations have been recorded visiting the Mimitar, Caldari, and Amar. Edencom, which does not have an established research wing, has begun recruiting for an expansive research and development program. Edencom has also begun talks with Upwell, the designers of Edencom vessels, related to the development of a new research department. These talks were, however, waylaid due to the recent cyber attack on consortium infrastructure. News in brief. Early findings from Federation inquest into Race for Hive's failure implicate Agard's administration. Caldari supply Edencom forces with Karuras for Pochfin deployments. Major conflicts between Capsuleers and Head Constellation, Lantoran and Socide, results in trillions of ISK worth of destruction. New conservation advocacy initiative within Thrus 4 launched to protect declining hanging long limb population from poachers. President Agard commends Capsuleers preparing for celebrate Federation Day on Dodixie on the 28th of June. Holoreel data chip sales on rise as retro-physical media counterculture seeks alternatives to broadcast media. Capsuleer-led Imperium announces relocation from Delve and Quirius with goals of consolidation in southeastern reaches of New Eden. And that is it for your New Eden news on June 26th, YC127. Now for some analysis. So, obviously, the Equinox structures have seen multiple setbacks since their deployment with Equinox, including the development of the mercenary dens and now this cyber attack. I do find it interesting that they say that they try to blame the Deathless Circle, which the Deathless Circle has kind of become the de facto faction to blame for all bad things happening in New Eden recently. That said, this idea of a self-replicating virus, an evolutionary algorithm, when I read this seems to me like the hallmark of Triglavian technology. You know, historically, when we've seen these self-replicating worms, they have been attached to Triglavian efforts, and this idea of like evolutionary algorithms is very similar to what Triglavians have used when it comes to like filaments and establishment of stuff. Did the drifters do? Let's see. Let's look up self-replicating worm. Yeah, so mysterious Triglavian Galnet worm unlocks abyssal filament configurations for frigates. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about, and I think that's the big one. So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's associated with the Triglavians. It may be still associated with the Deathless, but also remember that the Deathless might see common allies with the Triglavians, because and you know, the Deathless is all about making deals and forming new alliances. They both, you know, both the Deathless and the Triglavians see the Drifters as a significant threat. I'm just saying, like this. Now, it's also true that the Deathless have an incredibly powerful computer system in the Warden, but I think that that's actually makes it even more interesting that this doesn't implicate the Warden in this situation. You would just think that if the Deathless was involved, they would use their ability to crack the codes and possibly even infect through the mercenary dens. That would be more direct as a way of doing it. I feel like the DED and Consortium are potentially covering up for their own failure and using the Deathless as a scapegoat. But like I said, this idea of a self-replicating worm definitely reflects more of a Triglavian strategy than anything else. Now, this Drifter Wormhole Occupiers, this is very related to the Drifter Summit, which happened at FanFest, where the Mimitar and Edencom were about sharing the materials with everyone. But the Triglavian Collective in particular, those who supported the Triglavian Collective, were against this policy of free sharing the materials. So while I think this is interesting, we're still just kind of tiptoeing towards the next development with this stuff, right? We don't know where the Drifter tech is going. We don't know where these new devices are going. Although when they were active, remember, there was a wormhole that did seem to lead to Jovian space in at the tip of each of those towers. So that's worth looking at. But we're going to have to keep a close eye on these factions and what they are developing. We also have seen some notes about their research and development projects in previous New Eden news. Yeah. But in the news in brief, we do have, so we're seeing a blame on the Agard administration. Remember, there was supposed to be an election within the Federation 4 months ago. And the election was delayed due to the Drifter attacks. But now the Drifter attacks are over, but Agard is remaining on high alert. So, you know, the Agard administration, President Agard, is at a historically very weak position politically. And this doesn't help anything. So I do find, especially with like Federation Day coming up, which in the time of this recording is tomorrow, and there is going to be an in-game event in Dodixie during that time, I wonder if there's something going to happen. And more importantly, we absolutely need to have an election if we continue want to keep calling the Federation a democracy. So, next we see the Caldari supply Edencom forces with Karuras. This is related to the fact that there is a balance change in Pochvin where Phoenixes use missiles. They're a missile-based dread. There's a site in Pochvin where you have to fight an Edencom dread, and it's based on one of the 4 races, obviously. But the problem is that 3 of the 4 races use turrets, and 1 of the races use missiles. And it was difficult to balance between those 2 and make them realistic. So they're switching the Caldari one over to the Karura to make it so that all 4 races are using a turret. So that makes them more straightforward for how they operate. Major conflicts between Capsuleers and Head Constellation. There has been significant, there's been scope news about this. There's been some pretty significant dread brawls in Lowsec recently, which have been pretty cool. I don't have any idea what this one is. We might want to look up this one Tharus 4 is almost entirely covered by inhospitable marshy jungles, and the methane-filled atmosphere is unbreathable by humans. It is the home of the longlimb family of species, including the hanging longlimb. See also hanging longlimb. The hanging longlimb is an animal that comes from the methane-covered Galente planet. This planet's ecosystem was not changed in thousands of years and remains mostly free of human intervention. While the longlimb does have some predators, it is known to be skilled at avoiding them. It is not, however, a very intelligent animal, though it does have some problem-solving abilities. It is capable for quick movement, but does not do so unless attempting to capture food or evade a predator. And there is some chronicles involving this. This is actually pretty new to me. Oh, we've even got a picture of him. I wonder if this is going to go anywhere. It is associated with the Galente, so like all of this stuff with the election and Celis Agard and all that stuff, it could maybe play out. Yeah, as of right now, though, I'm not sure exactly where they're going. Yeah, it is kind of creepy looking, huh? But let's see. Let's go back to this. They're saying new conservatory advocacy initiative. So the population is declining. That might be something that's worth looking into later. You know, the Capsuleer Day, or sorry, not Capsuleer Day, but the Federation Day in Dodixie on the 28th. We just talked about that. Save the long limbs. Yeah, I didn't know anything about them, but now I care. It could be a target for Vanguard. Yeah, that's true. It could be another piece of like Vanguard stuff. What is the event tomorrow? Tomorrow is Federation Day. So right now there's a skin sale for Federation Day and stuff, but the actual like so tomorrow is the birthday of the Federation. Holoreal data chip sales on rise as retro physical media counterculture seeks alternative broadcast media. Is interesting. Paragon created their own broadcast network, and of course Scope has been doing their thing. But yeah, I don't know. This kind of seems to represent just more of a tension between the powers that be. What does it look like in game? There's a whole firework. No. So every year they have so it's just basically going to be a player gathering with fireworks and celebration and all that sort of stuff. It's a player run event. And a skin contest. And then Imperium is on the move again. Actually, one of the most interesting things is it came to my attention that the Imperium are actually destroying their structures in 1DQ, which is amazing. That's going to have some pretty crazy repercussions. But you know, this is the biggest logistical movement in New Eden for probably the last decade or so. So that's kind of a cool thing to pay attention to. Yeah, the Keepstar Bash is this weekend too. So there's a lot going on this weekend. If you're watching this live, if you're not, then maybe you should look into what happened. But that is it for the New Eden news for today. Or rather for June 26th, YC127. I have been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. Until next time, I'll see you in space.